When we think about the stories of the prophets, our minds usually jump to these epic scenes, right? Big miracles, huge struggles against powerful kings. But today, we're going to explore a prophet whose significance isn't about worldly power at all. It's about something way more fundamental: knowledge itself. And that brings us to this central mystery. Who is this prophet, mentioned just twice in the entire Quran, with no grand, detailed story, and yet we're told he was raised to a high station? How does that happen, and why? Well, that's exactly the question we're going to answer.
So let's start unpacking this whole enigma. And honestly, the best way to understand who Idris was is to first look at what his story isn't.
Think about it. It's such a stark contrast to other prophets. You've got Noah's Ark, Moses parting the sea, Abraham's defiance, these huge, dramatic events. But with Idris, the Quran is, it's pretty quiet. It doesn't give us a long narrative, there's no famous miracle, no major political showdown.
And yet, we get this single, powerful verse. Despite the lack of a typical prophet's story, it's stated so clearly that Idris was elevated. This creates a really fascinating tension, doesn't it? What could possibly be the reason for such an honor, if not the usual displays of power and miracles?
This kind of forces us to reframe the whole idea of a prophet's mission. What if the most important struggle isn't always the one fought on the outside? This table really puts it all into perspective. You see, Noah, whose primary struggle was social against a corrupt society. Abraham's was intellectual, challenging the very idea of idols. Moses, of course, was political, going head-to-head with Pharaoh. But Idris, his struggle was something else entirely. It was more foundational, more internal. It was the original human struggle against raw ignorance and chaos.
And this is the absolute key point. Idris wasn't sent to confront a corrupt civilization. He was sent to lay the very foundations for a civilization to even exist. His mission wasn't to tear something down, but to build up the human mind itself.
So this brings us to the core of it all. If his high station didn't come from a worldly battle, then where did it come from? Well, the clues are hidden right there in his name and his description.
And here it is. The name Idris itself comes from the Arabic root darasa, which means to study, to learn, to teach. His entire identity is inseparable from the act of education. His purpose is literally written right into his name. The Quran gives us these very specific attributes for him. He was a Siddiq, a man of truth. He was a Nabi, a prophet. And then, there it is again. He was raised to a high station. It's absolutely no coincidence that his elevation is mentioned right alongside his devotion to truth.
So, the picture becomes crystal clear. His high rank wasn't tied to military power or some earthly kingdom. No, it was directly linked to knowledge and to truthfulness, to the real meaning and status that comes from understanding.
Okay, now we get to the really fascinating part. What did this knowledge actually look like in practice? How did it lay the groundwork for everything that came after?
Well, Islamic tradition credits him with introducing the very first building blocks of an organized society. We're talking about the art of writing to transmit knowledge, arithmetic, so we can plan and build things, and even the basic systems to organize people and regulate time. These aren't just skills, they're basically the fundamental operating system for civilization itself.
This slide just illustrates that transition perfectly. It represents humanity's giant leap from chaos to order, from just reacting randomly to things to actually planning, and maybe most importantly, from living on raw instinct to living with conscious intention. This is the dawn of the structured human mind.
And that brings us full circle, right back to that verse. We raised him to a high station. The Quran seems to be telling us something so powerful here, that what truly elevates a person, what gives them real status, isn't what they possess or control in the material world. It's what they understand.
Okay, so this is an ancient story, but why does it matter to us, right here, right now? Because it raises some questions that are incredibly relevant to our modern world. Just think about it for a second. Can any faith, any belief system, truly be resilient if it isn't supported by a foundation of knowledge and understanding?
And what about our ethics? Can a moral code really last if people don't understand the reasoning behind it? Or does it just become a set of empty rules, just waiting to be broken?
Now this one is huge. History is filled with examples of powerful civilizations that had immense wealth, all the resources in the world, and yet they collapsed from within. Why does that happen? The story of Idris suggests a pretty compelling answer.
The message of Idris is this powerful warning against imbalance. You see, religion without consciousness is fragile. A civilization without values is just blind, stumbling around. And maybe the scariest of all, knowledge without truth is just plain dangerous.
His story in the Quran might be incredibly brief, but as we've seen, its implications are absolutely vast and timeless. It's a foundational lesson for all of human society.
And so we end on this final thought. When we look at the major problems facing our world today, is the root cause really a shortage of resources, of money, of technology? Or is it a shortage of consciousness, of understanding, of the very foundational knowledge that Prophet Idris represents? That's really something to think about.